meeting is called to order.
Thank you.
Oh, a flag. Wow, how convenient. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, let me pull the agenda up on my phone because I just got to work 1 minute ago. Oh, yes. Comments from the audience.
Yes, I do have one this evening. If I could ask everyone to mute their systems. Thank you. This is from Greta Broniel. First, I want to thank the Bolton Public School Administration for their exhaustive work over the past few months, ongoing adaptability, and continued communication with parents. Greta lives at 58 Tinker Pond Road. I next want to make the case for students and families from the perspective of a parent and a public health professional and reiterate the notion that our current viral climate supports in-person learning for students who choose to do so. Taking this step towards normalcy is critical to the overall health of our community. Remote learning for families that find it impractical and infeasible due to employment, lack of education, instructional skills, young children and elderly to care for at home, etc., will continue to foster inequities, widen achievement gaps, and damage our social determinants of health, economic stability, education, healthcare, housing, the things we know substantially impact health outcomes, both acute and chronic. We need to carefully weigh the burden of COVID-19 with the increasing burden of the unintended consequences that impact our children's health now and in the future. I secondly want to support the notion of giving families choice. For those families in which COVID-19 would be a high danger, they should continue, as is being provided, to have the choice to keep students learning remotely. Lastly, I want to remind parents, students, faculty, and staff to enter the school year with a positive attitude about the changes put in place that will keep teachers and students safe, as upbeat as we can be at the present moment. This is a high anxiety time for everyone. Masks are the new norm and the most effective mitigation strategy we have right now. Let's make sure to let kids know it's okay to wear a mask, to wash their hands frequently, and social distance as appropriate. These shouldn't be frightening or negative measures, albeit a bit uncomfortable. Let's continue to focus on social and emotional health and be reminded that children are in fact our future. We need to rally around our teachers and students, support them, bring them back to the classroom while always remaining flexible to our ever-changing environment. Again, our case, transmission, and positivity rates are so extremely low at the present moment that it will be difficult to even suspect COVID-19 as a diagnosis among ill students entering the classroom this fall. It's time to give in-person learning a try. That is all I have for public comment this evening.
Thank you. Additions to the agenda, I know we need to add personnel committee report and board buildings and grounds committee report. Is there anything else?
No, that is all I have. So I thought we would add buildings and grounds under 2A and personnel under 2B.
Yep. Got it.
Under Board of Education committee reports.
Okay. 2A, 2B. On to routine business items. The approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the June 11th, 2020 Board of Ed virtual business meeting?
This is Chris Davey, so moved.
Is there a second?
Sue Pike, second.
Any discussions, edits? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the June 11th minutes, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Was there someone who was not there? I don't recall. I don't think so. That passes. Do I have a motion, please, to accept the July 22nd, 2020 Board of Ed virtual special meeting minutes?
This is Chris Davey, so moved.
I'll second. Ann Decker.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or editing on the July 22nd minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of adopting July 22nd minutes, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is there any abstentions? Hearing none, that also passes. And finally, we'll be looking for a motion to adopt the August 3rd, 2020 virtual special meeting minutes.
That would be August 5th, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's
That's okay.
August 5th. Yeah, that date hasn't happened yet. Or it's today, actually.
Rhea makes a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Rhea. Is there a second?
Sue Pike, second.
Do we have any discussion or editing or questions on the August 5th meeting minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of adopting, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Those also pass. Routine business number 2, Board of Education committee reports. 2A, was that personnel, did we say?
Buildings and grounds, please.
Okay.
Okay, let me unmute. So Building and Grounds Committee met today, and John gave an update on just some of the happenings and some of the business that the school has had over the summer. First off, he talked about how the custodial crew has been daily cleaning and disinfecting the entire schools. They've been working really hard doing this, but working split and alternating shifts to limit exposure to COVID. They've also done normal summer cleaning and stripped and waxed some of the floors of the school with a future goal of doing 1/4 of the school per year, so that in every 4 years they would strip and wax the entire school. They painted classroom door frames at BCS. Rooms 1 through 22 were completed. HVAC has been checked and fixed several times. Recently, there was a motor seized at BCS, which, to my understanding, does not have a cost at this time, but they're getting fixed. BHS carpet has been replaced in several areas, including the library, the office, and guidance. A couple of things related to COVID-19. Plexi was installed in the offices, desk shields for both teachers and students. Supplies and disinfectants were delivered and distributed. Classrooms were reorganized and excessive furniture was removed to maximize social distancing when students come back. And full PPE kits were ordered and hopefully won't be needed. Additionally, relating to the recent storm, there was nothing major on the school grounds regarding the storms. The tennis courts, work is underway on the tennis courts. Concrete will be poured next week, I believe. And then finally at BCS, 28 of the 44 windows that need to be replaced have been replaced. I also wrote in my notes that Kristen really likes John. What I really meant to write was that Kristen very highly commends John and his group for all the work that they've done recently and over the summer. And in turn, John also really had very high praise for all of his staff also. And then one more final thing, the new position in administration that we had talked about will free up Andy to give John some more support as needed.
Thank you.
So that was a lot of stuff. I was kind of writing quickly. If there's anything I missed, I apologize, but I think that's a pretty good synopsis.
That's a great synopsis, and I'll add a few more things under my part. I think Chris has a question.
Yeah, a couple questions. What was the purpose of replacing the You said the BCS library carpet? Because I thought that
No,
was replaced.
BHS.
BHS, okay,
BHS, yeah.
perfectly. That makes much more sense. And then what is the purpose of disinfecting the entire school every day if there are currently no students there?
No, I think that was maybe just,
Yeah, what I meant was that cleaning of the school was taking place every day to clean and disinfect. Every area of the school was cleaned and disinfected every day.
so cleaning has happened routinely throughout the summer, including deep cleaning, as well as stripping of floors, painting, things like that. And back when when we first went out, the guys went to a split shift and we're doing a lot of deep cleaning. So there's been cleaning, right? That general summer cleaning that happens. And we are prepared to do a deeper clean, if you will, each night once students and staff are back in the buildings. Okay. Personnel.
Yes, Personnel Committee has met over the summer and of late a number of times, and all of these meetings were in regards to our upcoming teacher negotiations.
Yep. Thank you.
And now we are on, is there any community meeting reports? Any correct PTA, none of the above? Very good. I'll turn things over to Superintendent Hecht for the Superintendent of Schools report.
Thank you. So as the board is aware, the Bolton Public Schools will be opening in a hybrid model. This approach blends traditional face-to-face instruction with flexibility of synchronous and asynchronous online learning to curb the spread of coronavirus. We are planning this phase-in approach with the hopes of returning to a full in-person learning on October 14th. The decision to return to full in-person learning on October 14th or to move to a full distance learning model at any time will be made in collaboration with local health officials and driven by health metrics in Bolton and our area. The hybrid model is a phase-in return to school model similar to the state's reopening phase-in model. It allows for the focus on proven mitigation strategies, including social distancing, cohorting, wearing of face covering by all, and enhanced cleaning and sanitizing. Our goal is to keep our staff and our students as safe as possible and to prevent community spread. On Wednesday, BCS and central office administrators hosted parent meetings for grade level bands K2, 3-5, and 6-8 in the morning, and at the high school for grade 9, and then again for grades 10 and 12. The purpose of all of these meetings was to share information and to answer questions from parents. The meetings were very well received and appreciated. School will begin for students on Wednesday, September 2nd. The first 3 days of school, as a reminder, are early release days for students only. Wednesday, September 2nd, will be the first day of school for students with last names A through K in the Buster group. The first day of school for students with last names L through K in the Bulldog group will be Thursday, September 3rd. All students will be working remotely on Friday, which will give us an opportunity to test out our technology, which will have been handed out in the first 2 days. The following week is Labor Day, and the Buster group will be in school on Tuesday and Wednesday. The Bulldog group will be in school on Thursday and Friday of that week. While we are in the hybrid model, our regularly scheduled early release Fridays will be on Wednesday afternoon of that week. And both Mr. Maselli and Mr. Giard will be sending out reminders as we go along. We've extended the survey for return to school for parents to share with us their plan until this Friday, August 21st. I would like to thank Debbie Wagner and our wonderful ladies in the cafeteria for the great job they have done since this pandemic hit, feeding our families in Bolton. They have served over 22,000 meals. I would also like to thank John Butramovich and our custodians for their outstanding work, getting us ready for the start of school. I would also like to thank our administrators who have been tirelessly working over the summer, along with the numerous staff members who are so dedicated, who have been part of our reopening committee, our teacher leaders who have been working tirelessly as well to support our administrators so that we're ready to go for any of the 3 plans that we have for this year, whether it be the hybrid, full opening, or the distance learning model. We have amazing staff in Bolton, and I feel so thankful to work with such amazing people. I would also like to thank the board for your ongoing support, and I would also like to thank the community for theirs. I'd now like to turn it over to Mrs. Malinowski for an update on curriculum and technology.
Good evening. As we prepare for this school year, our work will focus on continuous learning and equity for all students. In order to ensure this, we have secured the important instructional technology tools that will assist our teachers and students. We have secured Chromebooks for all students in the district. Now that's great news, even if you can hear that over my dog barking. First time all day. Sorry. These devices will be distributed by classroom teachers on Wednesday and Thursday of the first week of school. Students' use and technology expectations will be reviewed during the opening days. To assist with instruction for both in-class and remote students, we have stationary webcams, similar to the separate webcams many of us have on our computers, for all classrooms, and microphones have been ordered. So as we may have heard on the news, technology is a hot commodity. Things have been ordered. Our bags for the Chromebooks and our microphones are back ordered. So we are getting them as they come in. I will assure you that the microphones on the webcams will suffice. It will be better with the microphones as we get them. The webcams are stationary, as I said, and will have limited scope where the teacher will control where the camera is projected. For students on the remote parallel learning track, Chromebooks and supplies will be distributed and coordinated through the buildings. A communication about this will be forthcoming. In terms of curriculum, last May, we began the process of reprioritizing our standards, content, and skills at all levels and with all subjects. I have to thank our staff for getting ahead of the curve. It has set us up beautifully for the start of this year. We're not starting from square one. Teachers met to identify standards, contents, and skills that were most impacted by distance learning and communicated this with the receiving teachers. This information was documented and we were able to pick up where we left off with this planning. We have time dedicated during this teacher's first 6 days to revise their opening lessons, which will also include an added emphasis on developing a strong classroom community. Mrs. Goldsnyder will speak more specifically about our lessons and other social emotional supports that will be included with our opening units. This year, grading will return to a traditional standards-based report in the K-5 level and a numerical grade in the 6-12. So yes, we are going back to grading. We will not begin the year with a heavy load of assessments. We want to be clear that our students are welcomed back to school in whatever form they are choosing to come, and our focus is going to be on that community first. Instead, teachers of traditional assessments that we may have used earlier in the year, in previous years, our teachers will use a variety of formative assessments that may even look like games that will help them determine where their students are and help them plan for the next steps. As students adjust to school, teachers will determine the best time to return to some of the assessments that we've typically used at the start of the school year. For that, we certainly will look at that as a developmental level and as we are getting to know our students. It's very different this year in that Students are coming to us new, and we really want to focus on building that community for all learners. In order to accomplish this in a hybrid model, we will be using a blended learning approach to instruction. Blended learning is a model that combines online and face-to-face learning spaces with experiences that are both synchronous and asynchronous. To the students, this model might look very similar to some of the things they did in distance learning, but with the added benefit of time with their teacher and peers in class. That's for those who are able to come to school. This allows for teachers to engage with the students who are not in the classroom as well. So for families who need to choose the remote option, our platforms, Google Classroom, Seesaw, and at times Zoom will be our options where teachers will engage with all students on all pathways at various times. The blended model allows for this flexibility for both what many are calling live streaming, but also some asynchronous. I'd like to talk a little bit about the idea of live streaming. We would not be expecting students to be sitting in front of a computer for an 8-hour day or a 7-hour day. Students on the remote parallel learning track or assigned to the Buster or Bulldog group will follow a schedule outlined for their specific group and by their teachers. They'll be expected to check in with their teachers daily and follow the same classroom assignments and schedules. Teachers will provide specific times for when students should log in and join a Google Meet. So for example, at the elementary level, if a student is on their day when they're learning at home or their remote learning parallel track, teachers can still organize a reading group that may combine some in-class students with students who are home. So those are the types of activities that we'll be looking to build as we open our schools. We have developed new digital protocols for the teachers to follow that will help students and families know their weekly expectations. This was developed in response to our survey information from last year, and I have to send out a huge thank you to Mrs. Sullivan and Mrs. DeRogers, who went above and beyond to work collaboratively with their colleagues and with the administrative team to develop these guidelines so that we can set up our platform, Seesaw or Google Site, in a way that may be more parent-friendly. Teachers did a phenomenal job last year, and we learned a lot. And now we know what we can do a little bit better. So these expectations will be shared in part of our beginning trainings. We've also planned for ongoing support with this throughout the opening of school, so that this is we can assure that this will be developed. For families, the most significant change will be that every classroom or group of classrooms, depending upon which level, will have a Google site where you can just go to one place and not have to log into a Google Classroom or multiple Google Classrooms, and you will see a week's plan overview of what the learning expectations will be for that. In closing, I also want to thank the Board of Education for their ongoing support, your tremendous support for our learning, our professional learning, our students, and to the community. Thank you.
I'm going to hit pause there for a second to see if there are any questions for me or for Sarah. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to now turn it over to Mrs. Goldsnyder.
Good evening. I will start by talking about social emotional learning, which will be a big focus for us when we return to school. Our school counseling staff and our SEL committee met during the summer and came up with a number of ideas to support social emotional learning upon our return to school. Whether we're all in the classroom or we're learning via other platforms, we still need to develop that sense of community. Some of the ideas and some of the activities that we've come up with is the staff were worried that kids wouldn't know who we were because we'd all be wearing masks. And we have little ID badges, but it's still hard to see those. So we have taken our staff pictures and we've blown them up to about a 3x3, I think it is, and to put into a holder that has a magnet that all staff members will be wearing so kids can actually see what our faces look like without a mask. So I think we thought, especially for the younger children, that this would be important, but I think for everybody, it's nice to really see a face. So our staff really worked hard on getting that together. Mr. Maselli was great. He was able to get pictures printed for us, and the committee has put all that together. So those will go on day one. We also we talked a lot about how the little kids K through 2 would let us know how they're feeling. If they're feeling sad or happy, because again, we rely on facial expressions so much and we can't see facial expressions with the mask. So in order for us to try to address some of those feelings before we see the crocodile tears start, we have given our committee made a happy and a sad face, and we've put on a tongue depressor with a nice big happy face on one side and a sad face, so teachers can kind of do a check throughout the day, like how are we, where are we, so we can show either a happy face or our sad face. So that's something that we've done for the younger children. We've also sent home some social stories for K through 2. So it's a picture with a story about wearing a mask and social distancing. We have a couple more that we'll send home probably tomorrow or Monday, just for parents to practice going over some of the new routines, the new norms in the school. It's a nice way for them to practice, and then they will be used in the classroom. Again, teachers will be going over all those things, how to wash our hands and how to put our masks on. So we have social stories for those, and we'll also be practicing those things in the school. We'll also be implementing the zones of regulation for grades 3 through 12. And the zones of regulation is a framework for teaching strategies for self-regulation and emotional control for all kids. It uses a color system, and it's got different colors. We have charts that we've printed off and laminated for all teachers. The school psychologists will be giving a short presentation on the zones. It's a very easy system to implement in the classroom, and it's really common language for everybody. So it's, it talks about the color yellow and feelings that are associated with the color yellow, and what do I need to do to get from yellow to maybe to get to green. And don't quote me, I might have those colors mixed up, but you want to move from one to the other. So it's a very easy system. There's a nice visual, and all teachers will be able to use that. Once we get it really up and running with grades 3 to 12, we're going to hopefully bring it down and start to bring it down to maybe grade 2 and grade 1, because the little kids can also use it, but we don't want to overwhelm anybody at the beginning. So we're going to go into things slowly. Also, community building activities are planned for the first few days of school. School counselors and I will be working during our first 6 days. We have a few meeting times set up, but we'll get those activities ready. So the high school will be doing some during connections, and the elementary and middle school children will be doing some of those in their classrooms with their teachers, just to kind of build community and kind of, again, as Mrs. Malinowski said, we need to take care of that part of the child and not focus on assessments and all of those things first. We need to get back into being with each other, and some of the children haven't seen each other or seen other kids for a long time, so we need to get them comfortable with being around other kids and their teacher, and so we're really going to have a focus on the social emotional learning. So that covers that part. IEP services and 504 accommodations. IEPs and 504 plans will be in place on the first day of school. All staff will have access. All staff who have children with 504 plans or IEPs have access to those through Power School, Power Teacher, and case managers will be going over that and sending information out so that everybody knows all the new teachers will know how to access those plans. Teachers are responsible for implementing goals and objectives and accommodations and things. Our students will receive their IEP hours on the days that they're in school by special ed teachers, paraprofessionals, and related services staff. And on the days when they're at home, we will continue to do distance learning with them or remote learning via either Seesaw or Zoom, telehealth for some counseling services. So we are meeting the IEPs to the very, very best of our ability. And again, just as with the general ed teachers, special ed teachers are strongly encouraged and need to be attending their classes on the days that they're not in school. So, reading class will be, math class, things like that. They'll be expected to be at those. 504 and PPT meetings at this time, we will continue to hold them via Zoom. Someday we hope to get back to in-person meetings, but for now this works and we are able to continue with our meetings in this format. So we will be doing that. I do have to add one thing. Mrs. Malinowski did say that we're not going to load the kids with a lot of testing when we first come back. I just do want to put a disclaimer that state and federal regulations have not been let go at all. So we still have to meet all state and federal timelines for special education. So we got a little bit of a reprieve back in the spring when schools were actually shut down. But now that we're back open, we need to finish any evaluations for special ed students who needed evaluations and hold PPTs that weren't able to be held back in the spring. So some of those children, unfortunately, we will have to do some testing when those children come back because we are required to meet guidelines and timelines. Preschool. I'm very excited to say that we have worked really hard and come to the decision that we will be holding our preschool program this year. All children will be able to attend the 2 days a week, and in order to make the program work, we have all of the preschool children attending on the same 2 days. So they'll be coming on Mondays and Tuesdays. That will be the preschool cohort. We've been working, Mrs. Osborne and I met the other day, and we've been working in the classroom to make sure it's a safe yet fun environment for our youngest learners and safe for staff as well. We have ordered some new materials for the children. So even though preschool children are allowed to perhaps share a little bit more than other children, we are still trying to have separate materials for those children as much as possible. But as you all know, it's really hard to keep 3 and 4-year-olds from sharing or being close to each other. So we have put a lot of practices in place, and I feel very, very certain that we have a safe program for everybody. So we're excited to have them. I think the children are excited to come into preschool. So that is all I have for my update.
Thank you, Beth. Are there any questions for Beth? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Giard.
Good evening. Highlight some of the bigger topics. So we're in the final days before staff return next week, which is exciting. I'm going to highlight some of the bigger topics, like I mentioned this evening, in regards to our opening in the hybrid model. The K-5 and 6-8 schedules that we've been working on. There was a couple of samples in the video that I sent out the other week. Have students remaining in their homerooms for the majority of the day, with the exception of going to lunch, recess, mask breaks, and specials. So they're not going to be sitting in their room all day long, but for the majority of the day. At the middle school level, teachers rotate between the rooms so that the students have all of their content areas each day. That'll help us to maintain the cohort fidelity by the teachers moving and not the students. The schedules include numerous mask breaks throughout the day. And that was a question that we had in the parent meeting, that they only saw 2 mask breaks in the video that I sent out, but I emphasized that it's a minimum of 2 mask breaks, but there'll be many more than that because it's a long day to have the mask on. The first 3 days of school, as the superintendent mentioned, are early release days for students. September 2nd and 3rd are going to be treated like first days of school. So when the Buster group comes on September 2nd, they're going to go through all of the getting their Chromebooks, going through all the having some social emotional activities like Ms. Goldsnyder and Ms. Malinowski mentioned to build that relationship with the teacher, talk about Google Classroom, Google Sites, all the intricacies. In case we ever were to have to go to full distance learning, those first few days of school, first few weeks of school are extremely important to set up routines and practices. So September 2nd is a first day of school for the Buster group, and all that same information will be repeated to the Bulldog group on September 3rd. So it's another first day of school with all students at home on Friday, learning from home. The calendar for September 2nd through October 9th has been sent out a few times. It's posted on our website, and that has laid out all the Buster days, the Bulldog days. It's very easy to follow. I've had a few follow-up questions from parents about which cohort group that they're in because of some childcare issues, and we've been very flexible if there's a hardship at home. So if there is anybody listening and you need to change anything, just please reach out to us. The scheduling has been a little bit tricky with the teachers moving and not the kids moving. A couple of things that have occurred as a result of the new scheduling that we had to do was that 5th grade will not have world language this year. but we were able to get computer class for the fourth graders. So we lose one thing, but we gain another. Overall, things turned out much better than I thought they would, but those are just a couple of the things that was a result of periods and the teachers moving rooms. Each student will have one specials class per trimester this year, along with physical education, and that really is in direct response to feedback from the springtime. Students had multiple specials, especially in K-5, and it was a lot of work. You know what I mean? Remotely getting activities and all of the different specials was a lot for the teachers, a lot for the families. So Ms. Saffron and I worked with the schedules to have one trimester of a special, and then at the trimester break, there would be a new special, and so on. So it'll be much more manageable for families. With a reduced number of students because of the hybrid model, for music, art, and library, students are still going to go to the specials rooms. That was a conversation that we had, but once we made the switch to hybrid with so many fewer students going to those locations, we're going to be able to clean the surfaces and get classes out and maintain the safety and the fidelity of the cohorts. So we're looking forward to students being able to go down to the art room. Like I said, only one class would be going to those for a little bit more information about music. So before, like 7th and 8th grade would have music at the same time with multiple kids going from multiple rooms to the band room and to the chorus room. And as you know, there's been much said about the water vapor from singing or from playing the instruments. And the music department has been tremendous. I know they met with Mr. Maselli, they met with me, Mrs. Malinowski, to talk about different research that they've read, different equipment that they need, and we've ordered it. So we're super excited to be able to have music, but we're still only sending that cohort of kids that are together in the classroom to those rooms. So they're not being exposed to any other students for music class. We'll have continuous learning throughout the week. That's been a question from parents about, is the learning going to stop? Is it just the same lessons taught on Monday and Tuesday as the same ones taught to students on Thursday and Friday? And it's not. There's continuous learning throughout the week. And Friday or Wednesday is not a day off. It is a day for students to work synchronously with teachers, whether it's live in the morning or asynchronous in the afternoon, completing assignments. Our grading system, which has been mentioned a few times, but it never hurts to reiterate, is returning to normal in our traditional K-5 with the standards-based grading and 6 through 8 with the numerical grading. The average turns into a letter grade on the report card. We'll be taking attendance every day, so it's easy with the students that are in front of you, but we will be looking at the online platforms, Google Classroom, Google Sites, Seesaw, to see if students are checking in. And with that, I've had a few parents that said, well, because of childcare, I might not be on during the day, but we're going to work on it in the evening. And I just keep emphasizing that we're all being flexible to just communicate with the teacher first, that's the most important, and with administration, and we'll work with you on that part. Most importantly, and it hasn't been said enough, is that the building is in tremendous shape, and a big thank you to John Batramovich, John LaJoy, Norm Harpin, Jeff Johnson, Dan Sanders, Alex Baer, and Vance Burba for all their hard work this summer. They've done an amazing job with getting furniture out of the rooms. The rooms look great. Doing a final walkthrough in the coming days with John Batramovich and the fire marshal, so everything is in great shape. Again, like we said, we took furniture out of the rooms to maximize social distancing, and students will be cohorted in certain parts of the building. We did move a few classrooms, there were middle school classrooms, from the edge of the elementary wing further into the middle school area, just because we really don't want students crossing over, elementary students with middle school students, so they're in specific parts of the building. Another big topic is traffic flow patterns, and the superintendent, Ms. Goldsteiner, and myself were in the parking lot today in front of the school. It looked like we were just taking a break, but we were really looking at the traffic patterns. And with moving to one schedule for K through 8, this year was going to be a transition with buses, arrival, dismissal, early pickups because of the sheer number of kids coming at one time. But with it being hybrid, actually we're able to ease into it a little bit, but there was a much more complicated plan to ensure the safety, but also now the cohort fidelity. We're using multiple entrances and exits to the building. Students will be loading in the morning on the buses back to front, irregardless of their grade. So if a third grader has the first stop on the bus run, they're going to be sitting in the back of the bus, and then we'll load back to front. That information will be sent out to parents soon. It's probably going to be a video because I tried to give it to my wife to read, and she goes, I have no idea what this means. So I think a video of all the traffic pieces Ms. Saffron will put together, we'll get it out to the families. If another big change this year is that we're not allowing as many visitors into the buildings unless if there's an appointment with administration. So if a child is being picked up or if materials are being dropped off, families have designated parking spots in front of the school with those big sandwich board signs that you see in front of restaurants for takeout. They'll call the maid office. The secretaries will communicate with the classroom, so for the student to come down. And again, all those procedures will be communicated with the families next week. We had 3 very successful parent meetings on Wednesday, and I think the key to that was we allowed families to send in questions before the meetings. So we were able to spend the first half of the meeting fielding those questions, sharing information, and then the second half of the meeting was any questions that arose from what we said. So the Q&A was really good. There was a few questions that came in afterwards, but overall the feedback I got from parents was very positive. I'm almost done. Overall, parents have been very supportive of our planning efforts, and I can't thank the board, the parents, everybody. It's not easy. Every decision, it could go 2-3 different ways, so we're doing the best we can to ensure, first and foremost, the safety of our students. We have grade level meetings on Friday, August 28th. Ms. Sanford and I were working on that schedule today, so there'll be Zoom meetings for every grade level, and we haven't really done that before. It's mainly just K-5 had the in-person meet and greets. But every grade level is going to have a virtual meeting because we really want parents to take the time to hear from the teachers, meet all the teachers at that grade level, to hear about where they're going to be posting the weekly schedules, because that information is very important, and we want parents to develop that communication with the staff right off the bat and all the grade levels. Overall, we have some work left to do, but I feel like we're in really good shape. And more than anything, I'm excited to get the staff and the students back in the building, because working in isolation in front of a camera at home, it's tough. So we're looking forward to having everybody back.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Giard? All right, hearing none. Mr. Maselli. Joe, you're on mute.
You'd think the guy driving would be able to manage something that simple. So we've shared several communications with families about our hybrid schedule and the different rotations. And we will treat those first 2 days as each first days of schools for each of those cohorts, the A through K and the L through Z groups. And that Friday, we're putting an emphasis on students connecting from home. That's going to be an important part of what they do on the 3 days when they're not in the building. So we're going to make a big emphasis on that, make sure everybody connects with their teachers. And we're also, we're not giving up on our Bigs and Littles program. The board members that have been with us in the past know how successful and important that program is. And we've already started to put a digital or virtual twist on that. So we're looking forward to kicking off Bigs and Littles on that day. And as we've also shared, we're planning on cohorting the best that we can by grade. Each grade is going to have its own wing, but the reality is in a high school, you're not going to cohort by 100%. I just want everybody to know that we're doing the best that we can, but it won't be a full separation between grades. That's just, you just can't manage that. We are having grades enter and exit by different doors, taking turns for managing mass breaks, all those kinds of things. So we're putting in all the effort that we can with regards to the cohorting. I am super grateful to Mr. Butramovich, Mr. Moore, Mr. Vincent, Mr. Johnson, Mr. LaJoy, and Mr. Clark for the amazing work they have done. They have been so accepting of all my detailed, often changing requests to move, repair, and modify, and they do all that with a smile. So I'm very grateful to those guys. I hope they're listening. And we're ready to provide that continuous learning in the blended model that Ms. Malinowski spoke about for all of our students. Teachers will set out those weekly expectations and a clear schedule so students will know when to be online, when to check Google Classroom, when to email, when to submit work, and all those kinds of things. Our hands-on areas, music and tech ed and culinary, have really been working to adjust their curriculum in a way to plan to keep our students safe. We've rearranged our art room with the help of our custodians. Our physical education program is modifying their planned activities, and the music teachers are prepared to meet the creating, performing, and responding national standards using both traditional and blended learning experiences. When they're doing their singing and playing in school, they're going to be following the CSDE safety procedures, including the proper PE, the distancing, performing outside. We hope we can do that for a while. We're lucky that our music program has an exit door right out the back of their performance area. And students will not be sharing wind instruments, and they are going to continue to monitor updates. There have actually been a lot of music instructionally focused research studies going on since late March, early April, focused on aerosols that, as they are associated with music teaching and performance, and our staff is deeply connected with those groups. We've laid out very careful plans regarding transportation for students on buses, or student drivers, or students being dropped off. We're also grateful with our transportation partner, M&J, who have actually worked out a plan for the town of Columbia to provide direct service for our Columbia students for the time being, foregoing the typical hub system that's experienced in the past. And real quickly, for the members of the board or the public watching that don't understand the hub system, Columbia students can choose from several different high schools. And typically what they've done in the past is pick up students from around Columbia, brought them all back to their town school or Horace Porter School. And those kids have gotten off one bus and got another bus to transfer then over to their high school. And Bolton high school students will not have to do that this year. And we will work with our returning faculty and make sure that we're communicating all of that information with students and parents regularly. I know our teachers are very eager to get back in touch with each other and with their students and their families. And they've already started planning a virtual open house for October.
Thank you, Mr. Maselli. Any questions for Mr. Maselli?
This is Ria. Hi. I would just like to say that I watched your videos and I thought they were really informative. And I was just wondering, and I thought they were wonderful. I was just wondering what kind of feedback you've been getting from.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So typically when a high school principal hears nothing from parents after some communication, he or she tends to do a quiet dance in the back of their office. I've actually been deluged with some positive feedback, and I've made an effort. So back in March, when we went out, I tried a couple of different kinds of communication platforms, and I did surveys, and it really landed on the people like those webcasts. I really try to keep them not overly brief, but not 20 minutes long. And I've continued to check in. We had the parent meeting the other day, and I believe the superintendent asked everybody in our parent meetings, "Hey, what do you think of that feedback?" And we got some positive feedback then. So it's a platform that's working, and as long as it continues to work, I'm certainly willing to take the time to do those. If anybody ever tells me that's not longer working, then I'll certainly make a shift. But at this point, it seems to be very well received. Thanks.
And did you get the survey? Did you get a lot of surveys submitted after you requested them? And
after I said 8 times in one 8-minute video, turn in the survey. Yeah, there was a little pop in numbers right there. Yeah, there was.
Sarah, could you share at this point where we're at survey-wise as of roughly?
Yeah, I actually took a look right before the meeting in anticipation.
Thank you.
So if we're just under 800 in our typical enrollment, we have just over 600 students accounted for. So we have some students still to reach out. So yes, if anyone's listening, anyone, spread the news, finish up the survey. We will certainly start reaching out to families. I was talking with Saffron today about some plans to making sure we get the most accurate information. About 80% of our students will be returning for in-person learning. So that's a nice improvement from this survey before.
Correct. Thank you. I would also like to say too, Bolton Center School will be doing a virtual open house as well. We just haven't gotten quite that far yet, but that will be in the works as well. Anything else? Chris?
Yes, Chris Davey. 2 questions. One, is the tech ed program continuing at Goodwin College? And are other programs that, might involve transportation of students to MCC or things like that continuing? And then secondly, what is happening with athletics?
So the Goodwin College program is continuing. We don't have any students selected to participate this year, but I did have a conversation with Matt Dodona, who's running the program at this point, just this week, actually on Monday, that the 3 districts will need to regroup in the winter to plan for what will be happening next year for our continued plans, because we were in the plans of trying to ramp things up, and then COVID hit, and unfortunately the superintendent there passed away due to COVID in the late spring. So there've been a couple of bumps in the road for our ability to continue to move things forward, but we are still keen on doing that. As for athletics, I do not have an update for you at this time, other than to say the CIAC had come out with, we were having athletics, and then the Department of Public Health released their thoughts about athletics and put different types of sports into different categories about you should not, you should consider the following. After they did that, in the meantime, our athletes were being allowed to condition, which they were doing, using all the proper social distancing and all of the requirements. And then on Friday, Mr. Maselli and I received an email around 3:00 Friday afternoon, of course, after all of our students had trained for the day pretty much, that all training was to cease until August 24th, until CIAC had an opportunity this week to meet further with the Department of Public Health. So it is my understanding that they were meeting with them late this afternoon or this evening, and I don't have any other update other than that at this time.
Just for clarity, to what Mr. Davey referred to, 2 separate schools, Goodwin and Manchester Community College. So we've had a long time standing relationship with both the University of Connecticut and Manchester Community College, letting students enroll in those schools in courses being taught by Bolton High School staff that were certified to do that. So students received high school and college credit. The MCC program for that fell apart through no fault of Bolton's. They fell apart statewide. It was really disappointing, frankly. So last year was really the last year for that. We were then courting Goodwin through the efforts of primarily Mrs. Hecht, really trying to get them to ramp up to offer a similar program where students would be taking courses with Bolton High School teachers, but getting Goodwin credit. That's what we had to put the pause on. There's also the Goodwin manufacturing program where we actually sent students at the end of the day to Goodwin. So that's a little different program. And that's the one that is kind of active, but right now we don't have any students that, are a good fit for that. So that is likely to continue, and we will circle back, won't we, Mrs. Hecht, to try to get a dual enrollment program going with Goodwin as well. But our UConn program is still standing strong.
Thank you. Yes. Other questions?
I just have one question. If you could take away or 2 or 3 things that you learned that from last year's distance learning that you're going to change for this year, the most important ones, what are they?
Great question.
Sarah?
I'm looking at you, Sarah.
Oh, I can't tell that, Rita. Thanks. I appreciate it. It is a great question. So I have to say our continued focus on, for the blended learning. So we really, I can't say this loudly enough because in what we learned, I don't want to in any way imply that our teachers did not do an amazing job with everything they did last year. But every time we try something, educators, we always want to do it better. And so we have walked away with really recognizing that we need to understand this concept of blended learning better so that we are able to, we know that our future is just, we don't know. We just don't know. But we do know students need to learn. And so blended learning allows us the flexibility for both synchronous and asynchronous opportunities, ways of thinking about learning that's just different from ways we've taught in the past. And we've been a very conservative district with technology. We've not been one-to-one. So this is huge. I can't emphasize that enough. I know at homes, everybody uses technology. Bolton hasn't gone down that road. We've been very mindful mindful of screen time, mindful of student etiquette, all those pieces as we've educated the whole child. And now we jumped into this very digital world without having some of that backup pieces. So we've really invested some time in learning about that, getting some resources for teachers to learn. And we recognize that we're not going to be perfect out the gate. We did learn that last year. I say this all the time and nobody's disagreed. I'm probably wrong because every generalization is wrong, but teachers tend to be perfectionists and hold themselves to super high standards, and they don't like to do things that aren't perfect for their students. So I hope we are providing opportunities with embedded PD as we're looking to how we've scheduled our time so people can support each other in learning how to set up their classrooms, their virtual classrooms and their live classrooms the best. You know, teaching students only 2 days in a row and then not seeing them, these are so many pieces. So I think the blended learning approach, our academic leaders have gotten ahead of that in learning. We've been sharing resources with each other. They've been talking with other educators. So that piece, along with really looking at our platform. I think that the work that Becky and Katie did was in concert with their colleagues. They looked at the best of what we heard, what we got feedback from students, parents, and colleagues. Like, oh boy, I love the way so-and-so did that. And they tried to create a template. We didn't have time to do that last year. So we now have some resources that we're putting forward for teachers for that. And then I think the last thing that we've learned is the importance of connection and really making sure we need to pause. You know, you heard Ms. Goldsnyder talk about the importance of for learning how are we going to read kids behind masks. We're having to learn how to read each other. Like, Maria, I didn't even know you were looking at me. It's like all those things. Yep. We've learned a lot about that. We've learned about Zoom fatigue. That's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. But, you know, our bodies, we're programmed to read body language and see expressions. And, you know, and all of a sudden this world, it's not meshing with our biological way. You know, my eyes are incredibly dry, so I might be looking like I'm making faces at people and I don't mean to. And then it's, you know, now we're sending mixed messages. So we've learned about that, and now this importance of developing community. So we're developing the children and supporting our teachers. It's that mental health piece. So I think those are my big three takeaways. I'm sure my colleagues have others because this list could go on. We learned a ton.
We did. I know Mr. Giard had something too, but I'd just like to pipe in too. You know, I think for years, and Ria, you were an educator, so you know this, right? The pendulum swings different ways depending upon what's happening, right? And for the longest time, the swing and the push was just on testing. And I think prior to this, we were working really hard in this district about focusing on the whole child. This experience, so as awful as this is, I see that as a ray of sunshine in all of this, in that it is causing, I think, all schools and all educators, and I think politicians, to get back to looking at how important it is to really focus on the whole child. Daryl?
Yeah, and I know Ms. Effer and I have talked, at the admin level, we've talked a lot about, from the springtime, we've learned a lot about what's manageable and realistic for families, working, coming home, workload from teachers. So we spent a lot of time looking at what our schedule would look like if we're in a full distance model, if we end up going to that point of how many classes each day, how much work is given, how much online time. So we've refined a lot. It was kind of a lot of trial and error that we've taken and feedback from families that I feel like we're in a much better place with scheduling and workload and working with families.
Beth, yes, please.
So as everybody knows, I supervise the school counselors, so I work closely with them on a regular basis about social emotional health for a lot of our other kids who may need it. But at this time, and I think my biggest takeaway, or our biggest takeaway, was how important it is to focus on the mental health and the social emotional piece of everybody. Anybody who knows me knows I am not a kumbaya kind of a person. However, I do think and I do believe that, you know, we often forget about that the relationship building, the community building. And we can teach teachers how to teach math well, but we can't teach teachers how to have good relationships with kids. So I think all the things that we're really working on right now is helping to foster those relationships with teachers and with other kids and with support staff and with everybody. So I think that that's like my biggest takeaway, is that how important it is just to make sure that we're taking care of the whole child, but that emotional and that mental health piece. Mental health is such a big thing right now. I mean, I've gone to so many workshops in the last year or so on mental health and suicide and drug overdoses and things, but really focusing on the mental health of everybody, just to make sure that we are really helping to foster healthy beings.
Thank you. Joe, did you want to? I don't want to put anybody in the spot.
Yeah, no, and I certainly agree with all of my colleagues, but and this isn't something I would change, Rhea, but just something I appreciate more than ever. I've been at Bolton High for a while, and I've always appreciated this faculty, but never more so than March 13th. Mm-hmm. And actually, I should back it up and say about 2.5 weeks before that, when they dropped everything else that they were busy doing and started planning and did a heck of a good job. And humbly, I'll say on their behalf, a lot better job than any other district that I interacted with in any way, including schools all over New England, because I belong to some groups. And they were tired and they needed a summer and they didn't take it. They're still in the trenches. They're still digging in. We're like turning away volunteers to do stuff at this point. And we're not ready to open school under hybrid model. No, anybody who says they're 100% ready is lying to you. But I don't think we could be any more ready than we are at this point. And I make that, I really give all the credit. As much as Zoom fatigue as this administrative team has, that's nothing compared to the work and the dedication of our teachers in the trenches. So I just want to say publicly how grateful I am for them.
Yep. Thank you. Jess or Christine, would you like to say anything? Jess, go ahead.
Mine piggybacks perfectly off of Joe. To add on to the things that have been said, it's the collaboration of the staff, because as we've said, and Kristen has said, is things come up we've never thought about in these little moments, but we get together in our boxes and all of a sudden somebody thinks of something as like, oh, I hadn't even thought about, and then it just the problem solving. It's not, so many of our staff are just working together to help each other problem solve. They're motivated. It has not stopped all summer. And I'm so beyond proud of them, and they are helping us. And it has just been fantastic, because every day, every minute, something new we have not thought about pops up. And if I put it out to they've got an idea, or we just talk it out and all of a sudden it's like, oh, right. I didn't think, well, it's a domino, but the support and the caring for each other is beyond, it's just amazing. So I'm just proud of us all.
Thank you, Jess. Christine?
Yes, thank you for giving me an opportunity. I think the biggest takeaway for me was realizing how much our students want to hear our voice, and they want to hear from us one-on-one. And, you wouldn't think that a senior boy would want to call and talk on the phone, but they do, and they need that. So for me, I became a mentor to a few students, and I realized the need is great. And, I've been able to plan to ensure that all of our students can have that mentorship if they need it. It was just a surprise to me that the old school telephone actually, was a savior for many of our students. So,
yeah.
I'm looking forward to sharing that information with our faculty and making sure we match up our students with just whoever they feel like they have a relationship with.
Yep. Thank you. The last piece I want to end on really echoes a lot of what you've heard today, but it really is about our staff. This group of administrators here, they're nothing short of amazing. I have to tell you, we have spent, I swore I was going to do this, hours, days, weeks, months at this point, planning. There are days when I have looked at them when I think, oh my God, what am I doing to these people?
because they have worked so tirelessly and so hard on behalf of our kids and our staff. And I feel truly blessed to work with such amazing administrators and such amazing staff. This is a very special place. I'm going to stop there. Thank you. Okay, anybody have any other questions?
Thank you for your answers. I think everybody should hear that. It was nice to hear, and I'm proud of you all too, for what it's worth.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for the question. It was a great question.
Can I ask a quick question, Ben?
Yes, Ben.
Yeah, I just want to kind of ask a question regarding mask wearing in the classroom. So obviously that regarding our hybrid model is mandatory. I've also seen, though, that, I have family members who are teachers, very close friends who are teachers, and in other districts, people are saying things to, administrators are saying things like, well, you might have enough room in your classrooms to not wear masks. It's up to you. If I were you, I would wear them, type of thing. But really, let me get to my point. Are we helping our teachers, find a way that's not a combative way, but more of like a helpful way? Like, you remind me, I'll remind you, like if it slides under your nose, because I know that, having worked in an environment for several months now in an office environment with people that wear masks, people get lax with it very easily. And even just wearing it all day, it slips under your nose very innocently. And, my wife was, she works as a high school biology teacher, and it, tells her, coworkers, hey, friendly reminder, if mine is slipping, let me know, so that it doesn't have to be like, hey, you're not wearing your mask, and it doesn't want to come off as a combative type of thing. But I just want to make sure that it's, obviously it's mandatory according to our plan, but we want it to be, so our teachers feel comfortable approaching people about it and, would say something about it, that it comes off right.
Mm-hmm. Daryl?
I can say a few words. So part of the first 6 days, PD days that we have planned is kind of figuring out the intricacies of scheduling, talking about when our mask breaks going to be given, how are you going to give a mask break, where, how are you going to get out to that area, and also the conversation, like you just said, of encouraging students. What about if a student's kind of melting down and there wasn't a scheduled mask break coming up? How are we going to handle getting them the break that they need? So those teams of teachers talk has been some of the conversations we've had.
Beth, yes, please.
So this is also another part of what we're talking about at our social emotional learning meetings, is really trying to get everybody on board and teaching these things. We did videos at both schools about wearing masks, hand washing, using hand sanitizer, social distancing. We have a couple more coming out as soon as we finish up with the state and the health district about signs and symptoms when to stay home. So we did a set at the center school and a set at the high school with staff in the building, so everybody's familiar, and they've already gone out, and they're gentle reminders. They're not, it's not like you have to. So it's kind of like, hey, this is why we're doing it. And we want teachers to be teaching those skills and going over this is how we put our mask on. So after the mask break, we'll practice it. So we want it to be teaching, and in that kind of a nice, we don't want it to be punitive and disciplinary. We've talked about that a lot in our social emotional meetings, not only for the adults, like, hey, get your mask on, Daryl, or whatever, but for the kids too. We don't want it to become a terrible thing that we're arguing about and fighting and sending you to the office because you don't have your mask. So we really did focus on that, how we can do that and help in a helpful way, and by practicing, and why it's important to do it. So instead of you have to do it, but this is why we're doing it. And we tried to hit on that in our the videos, is to the reasons why we're doing all these things. So we agree with you that we don't want it to become an argument or a fight. And we certainly don't want teachers spending time, or kids spending their 2 days being disciplined for not wearing their mask. So we're sensitive to mask breaks. If somebody feels like they're claustrophobic or they just need to, we talked about going out in the hall, maybe have some X's out in the hall outside the classroom, so you can go stand on the X out there and be socially distant, so you can take that mask off for a minute, as long as there's nobody else right there. So we appreciate that question and that thought, because we have considered that and come up with some ways to problem solve that too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ben. Chris?
Kristen, are you confident that our board policies pertaining to, discipline and dress code and those sorts of things are sufficient to address any disciplinary issues that might come up?
So I have some policies that I need to review to then send to you and to Sue from Shipman. And I'm going to be quite honest, I have not gotten to them yet. My plan is that after convocation happens on Tuesday and our trainings happen, that between this weekend and next week, I will be digging into those to see which ones we need to take care of. There will be one mandatory policy change that has to happen as a result of legal changes in the law that the board will need to approve at the September meeting. But like I said, it's coming your way, you guys. I'm sorry, but it's coming.
I've been plenty busy with other things. So.
Fair enough. Me too.
I'm not disappointed that we did get them this summer. Okay. I also wanted to ask, I'd seen some, posts online from teachers elsewhere in the country who had received their allotment of masks and protective gear. And it was like 2 masks, 2 surgical masks and 1 cloth mask for the entire year. I'm hoping that's not the case with our staff. Are we in good position? Do we have enough masks that we're not expecting staff to have to purchase their own?
We're not expecting staff to have to purchase their own. We've been buying PPE. I think Beth puts in orders for PPE almost like every day, if not every other day. And she's found a good connection that we have been able to utilize. And she and John have done an amazing job of getting all of that ordered. We have told staff that they can wear their own cloth masks. If they have a mask that they're comfortable with, or masks, plural, they certainly can do that. But I believe that we are ready to go. Beth, would you like to add anything to that, or?
Yeah, so we went around the high school, every classroom, every certified staff member has a bottle of hand sanitizer in the classroom. So we did that. Every certified staff member at the center school will have the big bottle with the pump, and they're all refillable, all labeled, ready to go. And they're also in the staff workroom. And there's signs about cleaning machinery, and there's hand sanitizer. We have masks for everybody if they need it. We have, I was able to get quite a few pediatric masks as well before they got the short supply came into effect. So we probably are the reason why there's a shortage of them, because we have them all. So we have pediatric masks, adult masks. We have face shields for every staff member if they so choose to wear one. And I have face shields for students on order that they're being made for us. So we have those, and we also, I asked the principals yesterday to put out a Google Doc with glove sizes. So we should be able to give every staff member in the building, we're hoping, a box of their own gloves so they can use them whenever they need. That is our hope. If we don't have enough, we'll order more, but I'm pretty sure we have plenty of gloves to do that at this time.
And a new cleaner. We had purchased cleaning solution, but it has to sit for 10 minutes before it can be wiped up. And so we were trying to figure out how that's going to work, but that's what was out there. And a new cleaner was approved on July 29th. And John placed an order for that cleaner today, and that sit time is 3 minutes. And it's been approved. So we are in the process of purchasing that as well. We'll be able to use the longer sit time cleaner. The guys will at night for night cleaning and on Wednesdays. And the other cleaner, every teacher will have that cleaner in their room. And in between periods, like at the high school, when kids leave a room and different kids, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, have to come to that room, the teachers spray down the desk and the kids will wipe the desk themselves, so that we have that happening throughout the day as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
And the same, obviously cleaning in the cafeteria and in between waves and things like that.
I just want to add for Chris, just so you also know, for the nurses' offices, we have some special materials. So we have to have an isolation room separate from the nurses' office. So we have gowns, we have goggles if they need them. We have shoe covers as well. And the nurses have been fit tested for N95 masks. So if they have a child with COVID-like symptoms and need to go into the isolation room, they have the ability to wear an N95 mask.
And we also purchased air purifiers, one for the each nurse's office, and one for each isolation room as well. Are there other questions? Thank you for the question. All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to my facilities update, which Ben pretty much covered, but I'm going to take a quick look and see if there's anything that air conditioning at Bolton Center School. So we have rented air conditioning system for Bolton Center School through October 9th. This is not a cheap purchase. It's about $58,000, but there's just no way in the heat of that building and students and staff in masks, I'd be calling half days every day because there would be no way we would be able to manage that. So for purposes of air quality and everybody's safety, that has happened. Unfortunately, we're not in a position to be able to buy it because in another year or two, we're going to be ripping the roof off of Center School. And really that will be the time. And it is my hope that that is something that this community will support, and that is air conditioning Center School so that then both of our schools are air conditioned. I will share with you at this point, we have fully expended John's budget. It's the middle of August. You will be seeing transfers in September. We do have some savings in staffing, so I'm going to move on to that piece next, that we will be transferring funds from. Many of our new hires are newer teachers, so there was some savings there. We have also had some unexpected resignations, which you'll hear more about under that part this evening. So as a result of that, and the fact that we have some open positions, and it's not that we don't need the positions, but for example, currently we have 5 open paraprofessional positions. We are trying right now to fill 2. Not sure that that's even going to be able to happen because of the application pool. We have a special education teaching position that's currently open, and with being in the hybrid model and being able to move some things around, we think we're going to be able to manage for the time being anyway, to not fill that position, which is a good thing because there really are no viable applicants for that position at this time. But I do have great news, and so I want to share a staffing update with you. So at Bolton Center School, we have hired Alexandra Goslin as a new middle school math teacher, Lauren Smith, new middle school language arts teacher, Kelly DeHart, new middle school language arts teacher, Sarah Andrews, 4th grade teacher, Krista Parison, a BCS reading teacher, Erin Breen, BCS 4th grade teacher, and we have increased Mary Dombroskis from 0.6 to a 1.0 because we needed that addition of that position to a full 1.0 to make all of the changes happen that Daryl has had to do in his building. We've been looking at that for a number of years now, trying to get that to a 1.0, but we couldn't make it happen. We couldn't make the schedule happen without it. And at the high school, Arian Silas is a new science teacher, Amy Hune, a new school counselor. She was our intern last year. Melissa Hubble is a science teacher at the high school, and Nicole Ravis, a new school psychologist. We do have a few other positions that we need to fill, and we're working on that as we speak. And now I'm going to move on to the 2020-2025 Bolton Public Schools strategic plan. Could we start with slide 1? Here we go. Thanks. So as the board knows, you approved our new strategic plan. And so I just wanted to share with you, while we've been working on everything else, I've also been working with a graphic designer that Ms. Safran, as a friend of hers, set me up with. And so this is our final product that I wanted to share with the board tonight. I'd like to thank Sarah's husband for this beautiful picture of the farm that I love, which is why it's on the front page. Okay, page 2. This is our amazing class of 2020 and the great job that our photographer did with each individual photo of our class that was taken and able to put it together for our table of contents. Message from the superintendent. You guys are all going to receive this, so I'm not going to read it to you, but I just wanted you to see the layout. Go ahead, Mr. Maselli. Our new mission statement, mission of the Bolton Public Schools is to inspire all students to grow as learners, individuals, and citizens. Our new vision statement that all students in the Bolton Public Schools are empowered to embrace learning and a healthy mindset, continually build knowledge, develop skills, and become engaged global citizens. Our new tagline, empower, build, develop, become. Our belief statements. Okay. A new graphic of our portrait of the graduate. Our strategic goals. Goal 1, focused on student success. Goal 2, a caring culture. Goal 3, talent development. And goal 4, resource stewardship, all focused and working collaboratively and in conjunction with one another on all of the attributes and focus of our portrait of a graduate, which is really our North Star. And finally, the explanations and further information about each goal. Thank you, Mr. Maselli. Any thoughts or comments about the strategic plan?
The presentation looks great. Everything pops really nicely, I think.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, you did a great job. Did a lot of back and forth. Wish I'd gone to graphic design school. All right. Unfinished business. I don't believe we have any.
Not that I'm aware of. If you're not aware of any, then we'll move on to new business.
Okay.
One resignation.
Yeah, so I have a number of resignations from BCS math teacher Tiffany Novak, BHS math teacher Kurt Kaiser, BHS psychologist Leah Gaudette, BCS occupational therapist Danielle O'Connell, and BHS kitchen manager Linda Levine. And we thank them for their years of dedicated service to the Bolton Public Schools, and they will be greatly missed.
Thank you. On to BOE subcommittee meeting schedule.
Yeah, I shared the meeting schedule with you all, and we left the committees the same as has been past practice. And if any dates need to be changed, just let me know and we'll figure it out.
Okay. On to Board of Ed meeting format. I had asked in the discussion with Kristen, I said that I felt that it was time that we resume in-person meetings for the Board of Education. I'm on a chair listserv, and it's kind of come to my attention that a number of other districts, if not most of them, have returned to in-person meetings. Many of them started with their July meeting, and a large number of them seem to have started with this meeting. So I think that we can do it safely. There are some number of details that we should work out and work together on them, but obviously we would need to be spaced out more than we have in the past. We would need to be wearing masks. Whether or not the speaker would be wearing them, maybe we can discuss that. Also, I'm not sure where we're at with executive order and what's even allowed, but as far as allowing members of the public to come, we probably would have to initially limit that. Certainly the celebration of excellence that we've done in the past would have to be something different, or I'm not really sure. We have some details to work out, but also this would certainly not be a mandatory thing. We would have to work out so that anyone who does not feel safe or is not, it just feels, uncertain about coming back at this time, would have to be able to follow along live and interact normally as we are doing now and as been done in the past. But this is, I think, we should be leading by example. We're asking everyone to come back. There's a lot of, as we transition back to normality, we should try to have an in-person meeting, perhaps. I don't know if Kristen wants to add anything or if anyone else has any thoughts on this matter.
I would. Can we go back for just a minute, though, because I maybe jumped ahead a little too fast. I need you guys to vote on the BOE subcommittee dates. If we could just do that, and then we can come back to this. Sorry.
Oh.
We could get a motion to approve those.
We'll look for a motion to approve the Board of Education subcommittee meeting schedules as sent.
So moved. It's Scott.
We have a second.
This is Chris. I'll second.
Any discussion or questions on the subcommittee meetings dates? I mean, obviously there's some flexibility built in, but we just need to post something so we all can start to mark our calendars. Anyone want to ask anything? Happy at the time. All those in favor of adopting the subcommittee meeting schedules, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Thank you.
That is, and we are back to meeting format.
So I don't know, we have a couple of things to share about how we think we might be able to do it. And actually Joe's going to share that, but I don't know if you want to hear from board members first before we share what would be the preference. I don't know either.
I agree that if we're asking teachers and students to come back, that it's not too much to ask that we try to find a way to meet in person as well.
This is Chris. I would be strongly in favor of meeting again in person, as long as we continue to do the meetings via Zoom for those who are in the public or even on the board who don't feel comfortable or have other reasons why they can't be here. I think Zoom has been a great way of increasing attendance at our board meetings, and I don't see any reason, as long as it's technically feasible, I don't see any reason not to continue doing that.
Anne, I know you had your mic. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm going to echo what Chris just said. I agree that we should get back to meeting in person, and that Zoom has been a great resource for us. So let's continue doing that and allowing the public to join us however way they are able.
I agree. I like the idea of meeting back. I know personally I have a lot of anxiety about going back into the classroom and what I'm going to be exposed to. So I love the idea that I would have maybe for the first meeting, the option of doing it via Zoom.
Yep. Okay. Mr. Maselli, would you like to share?
Sure. So in my head, as Mrs. Hecht and I spoke about this the last couple of days, I think there's a couple of layers. I think first is the physical space. And the board would have to decide, would they want to continue to use the library and what that configuration might look like. Currently, there's no tables in the library. We've torn that all apart and made it a classroom. Doesn't mean we can't move furniture again, but so maybe the current layout is more or less conducive to your thoughts. And obviously then the next option, if you want more space, would be the student commons, which currently has very few cafeteria tables in. They've actually got the library tables in there because the cafeteria tables are in the gym. So it's all that shuffling of furniture. And we don't mind moving furniture once a month for a meeting, but I guess some parameters maybe for John's staff and myself to plan how many tables, how far apart, all those kinds of things. So that's the first layer is the physical space. The second layer is the technology. So there's two ways of looking at it. One is that you all device yourselves as you are doing right now, and you just bring that device into the high school for the meeting. So that would be one way of doing it. Then the output would look very similar to this. Everybody's faces, everybody's got their own microphone, and everybody is an independent member of the Zoom meeting, as we all are right now. The other way of doing it would be to gather you together in the space, set up one camera, which admittedly would be far away and you would not have up close images of yourself. It would be the room, overall view of the room, but we could still hook up those wireless microphones that we have for the board meetings and pipe that in. So from a Zoom perspective, you all would be one Zoom person. Your audio, again, could be mixed between all of you, but there would be one image, one name. And again, that image would be a webcam, potentially, kind of across the room with small people. But those would be the two ways. One of the things to think about in that, other than the video size, because the audio I'm not worried about, other than the video size, the other thing to think about is what you view yourself. So if your chosen space was the library, we could drop the screen and we could project all of the other people on that screen for you. That's a possibility. We could also do that in the Commons, but you can't really see well in the Commons unless you turn the lights off and then you're in the dark. And then, so there's that piece to it as well. So that's options as I see them. But if you have questions, you want me to clarify any of that for you or ask me about other things, I'm ready for you.
Sarah?
And I would like to add, just to help with your decision making, if you should choose the device option, Joe and I spent some time talking some more this afternoon about where you're on individual devices. If your personal device is not one that hooks up readily to the system or what you have, we would need the heads up to make sure we could secure you a device for that as well. So that would be a piece that would be important information for us to know so that you could participate.
Yep. And also, for your knowledge, currently the number at a public meeting is 25. So it may be that if you decide to be in person, you're in person, but the public comment period is via Zoom, and people can join the Zoom meeting and give their comment themselves after they state their name and their address, instead of sending it in to me. And you're all present here in whatever room we're going to come up with at this point and whatever system that's going to look like. I would ask, I think celebration of excellence is a huge challenge for us right now. We've done a lot of videos and a lot of in-person pieces with that for all of you as part of celebration of excellence. So that is something that I think we're going to have to hit the pause button on for the time being. I think if there's, I don't want to project out to when we get to the spring and student awards, because I'm going to go with there's a vaccine, we're back to school and things are good. I'm feeling positive. So, because I don't know any other way to be. So I guess I don't want to cross that bridge, so we have to cross that bridge. But I'd like to say that the celebration of excellence piece is going to have to be a pause. And we may find ways to weave things into the superintendent's report in ways if we can, but I just want to put that piece out there as well. So I'm hearing that the preference is for you to be back in person. And that's, I guess I would say that, the governor's executive order ends on September 9th and your meeting is on September 10th. That is, if something doesn't change in the meantime, to give additional executive office pieces. So we will plan to have you in person. I'm thinking, I'm just talking out loud, and I don't know how other people feel about this. I'm thinking that just one camera and everyone on Zoom, I mean, we're going to look like ants. I don't think that's a good idea. So I think it's bring your own device, bring your own mask. I'm seeing thumbs up from some people. Thank you. And we'll spread you out, and the public can participate via Zoom because we will be on Zoom. How does that sound to everybody?
That
Okay.
sounds good to me. That's good.
All right. So I guess
The other thing I could just throw in, if that plan gives you pause because, well, if we're all on our own devices, are we really, what's the point of being together? Because it's going to look like we're separate. If you still want to go that way, one thing we could do is set up, you may have noticed earlier in the meeting, a BPS admin or BPS ghost or something, and that was me checking recordings and stuff. We could, in theory, set up another device with that overall view of the whole room with no audio, and people go, oh, look, they're the ants. But we can still see them up close. So
yeah, great.
Just a thought.
Yep, that's great. And I think we're just going to have to work, Joe, you and I, with John on what's going to be the better space, whether it's going to be the library or it's going to be the commons. I think we'll have to, and I'll just have to let you guys know where you're going. I mean, they're right next to each other, so. Okay. All right. Back in person we are, for those of you that wish to do so, and those of you that don't, and I hear you, Sue, loud and clear, for sure. And that will be true. We may have administrators for whatever reason that will be joining via Zoom at any given time.
I'll be on Zoom, but I'll be right down the hall in my office and control center pushing.
Right. That's what I'm saying, from their location. Right. So, all right. Great. Thank you.
So some details to work out, but we'll plan on that for our regular meeting, at least our next one.
Yes.
And everything, as always, is subject to change.
Yes, sir.
Do we have any future business?
No.
All right. So then we are now looking for an executive session, a motion to go into executive session to discuss the superintendent's goals.
Sue Pike, so moved.
You need to invite me to attend in that.
Oh.
And invite Superintendent Heck to come with us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Second, Ann Decker.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Baby abstained. Thank you, everyone who is here. And thank you, Administrator.